There you go. So I should introduce myself. This is Coming Out of COVID, Part 1. It's a 3-part series for Southern Region of Women's League, and it's going to be expanded through fall and winter of 2022-23. And I'm Barb Levin. I'm the Health Committee Chair, I believe, for Southern Region, and I'm sure I have a more specific title, but anyway, I'm also a family physician and public health physician in rural East Tennessee. So I'm going to pass it on to Susan. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Susan Steinberg. I'm president of Southern Region. I've been involved with the region for a number of years. I have been involved with my synagogue on the synagogue board as secretary. I currently am the membership chairperson, even though I'm not on the board anymore. I have served, as far as Women's League is concerned, I've been sisterhood president, I don't know how many times, and I've held almost every office except Torah Fund. And I'm also active in Federation and have stepped down from some things, but am busier than I need.
Right. Miss Dahlia, I see you next. You would introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Dahlia Smith. I am the education chair for Haska Amuna Women's League in Knoxville, Tennessee. And hoping, and I'm very glad to hear that this is being recorded, because I'm hoping that this can become a program for our membership.
Great. Madeline, I thought.
Hi, I'm Madeline Gimbel, and I have been president of my sisterhood in Atlanta, Georgia, Ahavat Achim, and I am currently the International Torah Fund Vice Chair for Women's League.
It's great.
May I say one more thing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Dahlia, if you are doing in-person meetings, Barbara can probably bring her PowerPoint and just
do the program.
Yeah.
We'll use it, yeah. So there's another person here. I don't see her right now. She was here. Did she leave?
Deborah Wheel.
Deborah, where are
Deborah's
you?
here.
She's
I'm here.
Hi.
Hi,
Okay, please introduce yourself.
my name is Deborah Weil. I am from Forest Hills, Queens, New York. And I'm the Health and Wellness Chairperson for the BQLI region. And I sit as one part of the Presidium for the Forest Hills Jewish Center Sisterhood. And when I'm not doing that, I'm a registered nurse, and I teach in several, I'm a nurse educator, so I teach in several nursing schools.
That's great. All right, well, I would like to welcome you all, and I particularly like to thank Susan for giving me the opportunity to do this. And I definitely would like to thank Karen Bellini, who's from Women's League, who helped us set this up. And a specific shout out goes to my son, who's home because the holidays are coming up, but he spent today helping me get this thing technically organized, because I'm not the slide queen. So you'll see, when you see a slide, you can thank him for it, for sure. But I was excited to do this. Tonight, we're actually we're kicking off a series of personal discussions on the impact of the recent COVID pandemic, what it's done to our individual lives, our communities, and the future of public health. Well, this sounds rather ambitious. Our focus will be on our Jewish tradition of healing and what we have to learn and share as we move ahead after these 2 years of isolation, illness, and definitely of confusion. I have no promises that this series will clarify and consolidate your thoughts and remembrance of this period, but hopefully it will allow us to shed a little light on what happened and why, and also set a new agenda for moving ahead. The looming question which will remain is whether we as individuals and as a society will be better prepared the next time, because surely we as humans will face the same type of challenge again. To start off with, I'd like to capture some of the thoughts and feelings in the room around the pandemic and the transition affecting our lives. So to do this, I would like you to go to the chat, and there's a thing called a little URL, www.mento.com. I don't know if y'all have done this. We're going to make a word picture here. So you hit the little button, and what comes up is a bunch of, you can see Joe is doing it there as well, but it should come up that you have an opportunity to put in some words. I'm not sure if that happened for me, but
Well, I'm trying to put the word in.
there you
It's
go.
not letting me put the word in.
No, it's not letting me either.
Huh.
Let me see if I can, it might be that it's blocked. Let me just double check and make sure blocking is open, voting is open.
Oh, here it is. It comes in.
Should be working. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm getting it. All right. And when you hit submit,
Oh, it entered, it didn't show it, but it entered it.
Yeah.
yep, I think it's going to all come together here, I think. Well, look, we'll see. Now, has the slide not changed? I'll hit the refresh here and we'll see if it goes. Are you going to hit the refresh, Joe?
It should already, if you actually look at the presentation, you should see it's already changing. I'm seeing results and I'm currently presenting them.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Can you see this, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's see. I have to make it a little bigger for me to see it. So what sorts of words do we have on there? Let's see. Oh, isolation and anxiousness, out of control, working together, separation, fear, isolation, loneliness, hazard, reasonable approach. So you can understand as you do this with a group of people, the thoughts and whatever come together, but this is sort of where we're starting. This is what we're starting with. This is what's in our minds as we move forward. So going back just for a minute, we'll put this on, we'll save this one and we'll get back here maybe. We're going to ask a second question here. Same thing when it says, what does the end of this pandemic mean to you? So you hit this thing again, and you're going to have a new set of words. You have to get to your chat, though, which I just lost somehow. Oop. So what does the end of the pandemic mean to you? So as we do this, again, the words are going to show up on our thing. Freedom. I love that word in the middle, don't you? Freedom. Travel, a new normal, new health challenges, better preparation, family visits, togetherness. There we go. That's where we're going. We've got where we've been, and now we know where we're going. So I have a little challenge of my own here to do.
I don't have your picture of the words. I just have Mentimeter. Thank you for your participation and
Oh,
enter
if
your.
you look on my slide, if you look
I
on the
don't have
screen,
your slide. I just
You're
have a
muted.
blank white sheet of paper, a white screen that says Mentimeter, thank you for your participation, asking me for my email address, which I gave them, and I hit email me the results and nothing happens.
So if you go back to the presentation, the resulting thing is actually I'm presenting the slides that have the result. The same place where the PowerPoint was.
Let's see, let me see if I hit Zoom, maybe that'll do it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on Zoom.
okay, thank you.
It's one of the Zoom windows. No problem. That's what I'm here for.
Each time this recording happens, that part will be different, and we'll have to try to work with folks who want to use it, including Dahlia, etc. But I'm just saying, it's always good to know where we start and where we're going to go. So as we move ahead here, we've now had some thoughts about what in some sort of emotional way, what the pandemic meant to us and what we're looking forward to. So the question really is, how are we going to put this all together into a discussion? And as a group of seminars, we're going to address 3 separate issues related to COVID. The first one is facing the new normal for ourselves, our families, our communities, which is what we hope to discuss tonight. In January, we're going to turn our attention to what has changed in preventive care, and we'll specifically talk about long COVID and its impact on our communities. And finally, in April, right around Passover time, we will discuss the future of pandemics and dealing with the unknown and the unbelievable. We're going to try to answer the questions, how to prepare and what to expect. So as we move on, it's been stated before that the pandemic has left us with a widespread and various set of problems, from disease to dislocation. And I personally have tried on several occasions to depict this complex interrelationship of disease, disability, distress, distrust, and dislocation that have impacted my individual community. But there's something, I've tried to create a picture that will give us some idea of where we're going. And I actually had to come up with 2 separate models to consider. One has the word disease at the center, and the other is like a series on a Mobius curve, because the problems keep recurring. I'm going to see these pictures. You'll see them right now on the screen. The interrelationships, we started out being concerned about a disease, but all of these disses are things that we really are here to discuss tonight, and hopefully to put together in some way that we can deal with it. I think it's important to realize the fluidity of the problem, that just about the time we think we've moved on, we have yet a new variant. And that's why I think this curvature, the returning model, is probably a better explanation of where we are, for sure. So I'm going to be using these descriptions as we move along in the different seminars, as we discuss both long COVID, which is both disability and a great deal of distrust is involved in that, as well as where we go beyond, and we're trying to figure out what to do with the next pandemic, for sure. Are we finished with this virus and pandemic? The answer is quite obviously no. But we are in the process of setting a new normal, an acceptance and expectation of not knowing exactly what comes next. As a public health physician and a primary care doctor, I'm often caught between the concerns of the individual and the community. The problems of the past 2 years of COVID have solely challenged not only me, but the entire healthcare system. What is healthy and appropriate for one person may not be right for the entire community. More specifically, as Jews, we often define ourselves within our communities. It is where we seek our identities and our personal missions. Much of our daily Jewish life, such as minyan, social events, study, and prayer, occur within a group setting. So the need to hunker down and isolate has even been more distressing in this context. Thankfully, we have Zoom. One work in this series will be focused not Our work in this series will not only focus on science, using what is known from medicine and public health, but also on our Jewish tradition. Previously, we in Southern Region had an ongoing discussion on wellness and spirituality, which explored the close connection between what we feel and believe and how we function physically. In 2009, our then Southern Region President, Anne Greenbaum, very appropriately felt the need to bring health into our Women's League programming arena. Since then, the connection between our physical and mental health has become better understood professionally and actually plays a major role in my ongoing practice as a primary care provider. But how does my daily practice as a Jew impact my health? These are questions which we as individuals do not often discuss. As a background for this series, I'm recommending the book Jewish Healing Wisdom. I don't know if you guys can see this book.
Yes.
It's by Stephen Roseman, who does explore these issues specifically. As a rabbi, he lives and works in Connecticut, but he's also a sports medicine expert and a psychotherapist. His book focuses on health within our Jewish tradition, specifically looking at words of wisdom in the Torah about various aspects of health, which are still applicable today. His concept or his thought is to use the book as a basis for a study group on wellness and spirituality, which is an idea which I very strongly support. So this is the background for this series, and where we're starting tonight is coming out of COVID, because that's where we got to start. Earlier this week, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerril, announced that the, quote, pandemic had ended. And then that statement brought down a shower of comments, which was agreed with and disagreed with, but his point was clear. We needed to move on and get healthy. This is a perfect time for us to discuss the issues of the end of the pandemic and coming out of isolation. We are now near the end of the Hebrew month of Elul, a period of self-reflection which prepares us for the high holidays ahead. As a child and a Reformed Jew, I had little knowledge of this month of preparation. Recently, I have started the study of Musar and other sources, and I found that this month for introspection, is useful in making my holiday service participation more meaningful. One of the central rituals of Elul, the month was talked about that we're ending, is the daily recitation of the Psalm 27, a psalm with themes of vulnerability, shelter, and faith. The earliest written mention of this custom seems to be the work of Sefer Shem Tov Katan by the Kabbalist Rabbi Benjamin Benish Cohen, published in 1706. While this appears to be the earliest comments, it's worth noting that some scholars relate the entire tradition to Baal Shem Tov, who lived from 1698 to 1760. This psalm puts us squarely in a place of high risk, needing protection and reassurance before we move ahead. Sound familiar for where we are with COVID? Each day's recitation is highlighted by one's own internal milieu. What are we thinking about and experiencing? As we make plans for the new year, we are not only organizing holiday meals and guest lists, but also imagining new projects and goals. The holiday rituals encourage us to look ahead to how we will resolve what is still unresolved and how we will move towards a greater feeling of satisfaction. But we will begin by looking back. Rosh Hashanah requires us to examine what went amiss in the year closing, for what we must atone. This is the perfect start for coming out of COVID. Many of the terms we use for the high holidays, return, renewal, redefinition, are applicable to our departure from the sheltered, closed spaces that we occupied during the pandemic. We are at this point where we have done what we needed to do to protect ourselves and our families. Many of us have experienced illness and loss because of this virus. Some of us remain disabled in some way, and yet we must take the next steps forward. Each of us has experienced these 2 years differently, just as we all approach Elul and the high holidays with a personal set of remembrances and goals. And I'm going to stop for one moment and say, at any point, folks, with this small group, please feel free to break in and say, whoa, 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 Barb, I don't agree with that, because I'm not just going on. I'm hoping to share these thoughts about Elul and the COVID with you, for sure. I'd like us to take a moment here to look back at the last 2 years and ask yourselves, what are you hearing from that period? What do you want to bring forward? What do you want to leave behind? And just see if there's anything to maybe take a moment and write down a few words about your personal experience with COVID. What did it do to you? What opportunities did it bring to you? And what do you want to move ahead and never think about again? I'll give it a little quiet here. Anybody want to share any of these thoughts?
I'll say a thing or two.
Okay, go for it.
Well, I find myself, I kind of been following my own lead, if that makes any sense at all. I just have been very relaxed about how far out I go. And I find that I'm living in a smaller circle. It doesn't, big does not appeal to me anymore. It never really did, because I'm kind of an introvert anyway. But I knew that it would be beneficial to me to increase my circles and know as many people as possible, because I really like people, but not so much anymore. I kind of like small circles now, and I'm being much more accepting about that. Here's something else that seems to be a riddle to me, is about how I'm feeling. I'm getting anxious is definitely a word for me, but I'm a little concerned also that I have never had COVID. And to me, it seems inevitable in some fashion or another. And perhaps maybe it would be good to have it, to be on the other side of that experience. I'm not wishing for it, but I'm wondering if being overprotective about it is not necessarily healthy either. And I'm kind of in a dilemma about why that's a concern to me. I mean, not a dilemma, just a riddle about why is that such a big concern to me. Kind of like chicken pox when we were kids, everybody got together and had chicken pox parties so that you could get it behind you. Whoever thought of that? But I remember that. But anyway, that yes, that's a confusion or a riddle to me somehow or another.
Anybody else like to share? No,
Go
Madeline.
ahead, Susan. Go ahead, Susan.
Oh, okay. Actually, during the heart of COVID, I probably did not go out as much, but I refused to have groceries delivered or let people do my groceries and bring them out to the car. I shopped during senior hours, was masked up, always hand sanitized. I don't even think I wore gloves in the grocery. Publix here had one-way aisles, which to me was very safe. Let's see what I want to leave behind no face-to-face contact, and all the restrictions we had once we opened services at our synagogue, which also we did not do kiddush after services for quite a while. Then we did packaged food only. And we now are slowly getting back to food prep. I have to admit, I did not use hand sanitizer as frequently probably as we were supposed to. I did not go out as much, but I am venturing out more. I've had all my shots, and if they require another booster, I will probably get it. Had I not been, I almost did not get the vaccine because since I was in education from 1975 to 2004. And during that time was around quite a few kids during a number of the really bad flus. And I never got the flu vaccine and never got the flu. And I almost didn't get this vaccine because I thought, I'm not going to get it, but I decided I would get the vaccine. And to date, I have not had COVID. That's kind of all I wanted to say. And Dahlia, it could be that you're immune. I don't know.
First, the physician in me said we could check your antibodies and see if you guys actually had secret COVID.
That's true.
Well, if we, yeah.
Just to add that, I actually had a lady today who was in this situation or earlier in the week, and we did her antibodies, and sure enough, she says, I just don't understand why I don't get it, and she's obviously been exposed as many times that she has a low grade, whatever. So, all right. So, Deborah, do you have something to add that you'd like?
I'm still trying to get back to feeling a little bit more comfortable being out. I really, what you were saying, Dahlia, I'm working really hard on getting past that fear, that anxiety. And, my husband and I went to the movies in a movie theater for the first time, I think 2 weeks ago. And we went on a Wednesday afternoon, and there were 3 people in the whole movie theater. So I felt comfortable, and I didn't, I was okay with taking my mask off because, there was no one there. So there's part of me that, wants to leave behind this feeling of fear or an anxiety about being with people. I think that's what I'm carrying, is that kind of lingering fear of being with other people. And I don't like it. I'm really working on. And then there's the going back and forth with the people around me of, when do we get to go back to normal? And I know for our sisterhood, this is a big problem, because people are very reticent to come back together. We have yet to have a sisterhood meeting together. Everything's on Zoom.
That's a good point, for sure. Miss Madeline, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to share some good stuff about COVID. Because of COVID, let me start with my granddaughter, my first grandchild. My granddaughter went down to the University of Florida to begin her freshman year. And then in March, everything shut down. As soon as Birthright opened its door, even a tiny bit, she was there. She was in Israel and has stayed in Israel, bouncing back and forth during her sophomore year and during her junior year. And August, she went back and will be there for a year without coming home. She has a work visa. She found a program that would give her a work visa for the year. And I think she's going to be making Aliyah to Israel.
Ah, wow, that's lovely.
It's a silver lining for sure.
There's a perfect silver lining. Yeah.
But that's great.
And thank goodness for WhatsApp, and I can see her and talk to her.
It's great. Well, I just want to thank you guys for taking a moment. I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Did you have something else, Madeline? Okay. So in getting ready for this discussion, I was trying to search what sorts of surveys could maybe point out the different ways in which people have lived. And each of you are great examples of people who were very close in, people who made decisions, changed. You know, there are just so many different ways to approach this. And when I went through it, me and the Google source, there were so many resources and they were so varied. And some focused on habits of daily living, and others were looking at community. And I actually want to share with you just two of them. There's two examples, one from the National Institute of Health, which really was looking at nutritional changes, and another one from a British NGO, Wellcome, which addressed a large set of issues around COVID in the workplace. And I think it's important for us to take a moment. I think Joe's got these slides up there. Can we do that? Let's see. It's really the questions that we ask ourselves that how people wanted to know what people were doing in the COVID, but I don't know that either of these questions would have come to the things that you guys have brought up just of your own thoughts. In order to make this big enough, you just have to change your screen, pull it up to make it see. The one on the left is a series of 20 questions, which ask you, the first 12 questions are about eating, which I thought was fascinating. And then the other questions are about interactions with people and all. And that's sort of what the NIH was looking at. And on the other hand, the one on the right is a very set series of things about COVID and how it impacted communities and work in particular. And I literally have probably 20 other different survey approaches. And it really is clear that this was something that defied us. There was just no systematic way to define what was happening to people. And I think that's very important as we move ahead, because it really gives us some idea when we come out of COVID that we have to ask the question, where was the person during COVID? Because where you were, where you sit has a lot to do with where you stand, but where you were has a lot to do with where you are and how you're coming out. And this is also true for us as we approach the high holidays in Elul. The questions that we ask ourselves affect what we learn and how we move ahead. But it's interesting to see that the impact of the individual is both paramount and yet somehow not always clear when we try to deal with COVID. It somehow gets all blended into a very, very big sort of mass of information and all. So as we decide to move out from COVID, it's important to try to have a sense of where we have been individually and our own specific communities. I have to say that in my Google travels, I found one sort of gold mine of information that I want to share with you. And it's the Pew report. The Pew Research Center just does all these quick little studies, and they have these things called short reads, which are a lot of fun. But the one that I'm going to focus on today is actually a longer read, and it came out in August, and it's very nicely ties into what Madeline was talking about, because it's talking about the struggles and the silver linings of COVID and how it affected us. And I'm just going to share a few of these with you, and Joe's done a beautiful job of trying to get this together. So I'm going to let you might want to pull up the screen and make that as big as you can, the slides. Just focus on the slides, I guess. Let's see. There you go. And you'll see the first thing is that these are just sort of a continuum of response on positive versus negative, red being negative and green being positive, about what people said. And you can see that it's about in the middle. Only 25% of the people reported and on any specific thing is 50% on their personal relationships. This is the response pattern. So Joe, do you want to just run those slides and we'll give people some ideas of some silver linings? I found this a very interesting thing. These are comments that came, that life has slowed down and brought family and friends together. That's the silver lining. Even for an introvert, there's such a thing as too much isolation.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they got out of this very massive study was the impact of the COVID on relationships. It both was isolating and it also created stronger bonds. Okay, the next one. This is where we were in order to how we come out. So this is looking at the impact on activities, disrupted activities and routines, as well as new hobbies. And I think this is a wonderful idea that people started sewing, but doesn't it look like you're COVID?
Yeah, it does.
The destruction of our routine has been disorienting. But on the other hand, the fact that people had to be at home, they learned to do more reading, needlework, crossword puzzles, long outdoor walks, no commitments on my calendars to worry about. So those are great things too. So the next one has to do with people and work, and this specifically looks at teaching. And it says the impact on work. Work-life balance improves for some and disappears for others. And this is, of course, the families that were trying to work at home with kids. So teleworking has been a welcome change. I enjoy the extra 2 hours I don't have to spend commuting. And I also enjoy spending more time with my wife. I know I'm fortunate and I'm grateful. And then this other one is from a teacher. I'm a teacher and have worked myself to the bone to deliver education remotely. It's completely exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's one more, Joe, maybe two. This one I like. This was about impact on health, loss of loved ones, depression, and declining physical health, balanced by relatively few positive. I am eating healthier because I'm eating out less. And this person says, the isolation has been difficult. I gained weight and became very sedentary. This is two sides, the silver linings and the other side, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go back to this just a second here. Hold on a minute, I've got to get to it. So the point, what is the point of this and how does it fit into our discussion of Elul and coming out of COVID? Each individual has made his or her own decisions about how to live through the last 2 years and what they chose to do or not do and how to relate to the overall concern about the pandemic looms large around each of them. So do we each prepare ourselves for Rosh Hashanah in our own way? Do we attend services this year in person for the first time in 3 years or not? Do we focus on our spiritual preparation or a family gathering and its needs? Having been sheltered as individuals for so long, can we truly reintegrate as a community? This is the question that we have. So I'm going to share with you the story of Shimon in this cave. In a recent learning with the Musar Institute, I encountered the story from our tradition that bears a lot of relevance to this transition. That is of Shimon bar Yochai, and the cave. After criticizing the Roman government, Rabbi Shimon and his son Rabbi Eliezer were forced to hide in a cave for 12 years. During this time, they found their own spiritual practice in isolation, deeply studying Torah. And when they emerged from the cave, everything they looked at was set aflame, and a divine voice sent them back into the cave for another 12 months. The next time when they emerged, Rabbi Shimon came out with the spirit of a healer, bringing with him the spirit of the Torah he and his son had learned so well in the past 13 years. They came out not with criticisms, but with questions and asking to understand. And as we come back into our communities, we too need to remember this tale and ask questions to find out how to bring individuals back together. What do we need to know about their 2 years of experience in order to make our coming together more useful? How do we learn about what we did in isolation that was positive and make it be able to combine with others and join with them? And that, I think, is the crux of our coming out of COVID, for sure. The need constantly to readjust is actually another, in terms of the COVID and this pandemic, is yet another parallel to our Elul preparation. Each year, as we take the time to find ourselves finding the high holidays, we take a moment and sit, are we in the same place? I mean, we're 5 days before Rosh Hashanah. Rarely, because our lives, rather than being in circle, are more like a spiral. Each year we come to a certain point, the beginning of Elul, and while the tasks are similar, we are somehow very different. Older, perhaps wiser, with a new set of experiences, both positive and not so. And clearly, this year is very much in that same tradition. So where are we? What do we know? We know that COVID has affected each of us differently, that we have issues to decide about coming out or not coming out. We have issues to deal with as we prepare for the new year, 5783. On Monday, many of us will go to synagogue and begin yearly prayers for a healthy and productive new year. It will be a different experience because of our past 2 years of isolation. We will make little decisions like to wear a mask or not, to sit separately, to share meals with friends or not. But each step is a step out of COVID, but each one carries its own risks. So in ending, I'd like to bring to you, share with you the power of the Mishaberet prayer, because I feel when we recite it each week, we remind ourselves of divine support in the process of healing and renewal. The words very openly say that merciful one, restore him or her, heal him or her, strengthen him or her, enliven him or her, send complete healing from a heavenly rain, a healing of body and a healing of soul. Together with all who are ill, speedily, without delay, send, I'm missing a word, send repair, and let us say amen. But this prayer focuses not just on the body and its need, it also very clearly focuses on the soul, which must recover for full healing. The words make crystal clear that healing is an active process, not one that happens to an individual, rather an interactive endeavor between the person, his family, and the environment. The prayer for divine support in this effort is with the goal not only being health, but wellness, achieving the highest state of function possible with one's limitations and strengths. We do not often use these words as we prepare for the high holidays, but perhaps this year, this third year of the pandemic, we will need to add these words for required strength and renewal to our prayers for the new year. The strength and refuge which will support us and guide us to emerge from this cave of COVID. So I welcome any questions and have time. It's, as I said, would take longer if we spent more time, but I'm happy to hear if any of you feel that this bringing together of COVID and Elul have been useful in either experience for you.
I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that in 2020, I think it was, in July of 2020, Women's League determined that they had to go on Zoom for their convention. And instead of having, 400 or 500 women traveling to a location and interacting on a very, very personal level, they had more than 1,000, maybe 2,000, I don't even know the number, of women signing on and listening and participating in the convention that may never have been able to participate in it. So you miss the contact. I mean, there's no question that you miss the contact. However, you afford so many people an opportunity that they may never have had. And I think they did a masterful job. And I was very, very impressed. Now they're going to do it again in 2023, but this time it'll be hybrid. So we're going to have a choice of going or just staying home and watching it on Zoom. And I just think, sometimes you really learn from it. I mean, I can't tell you how many people are tuning in to Sabbath prayers because it's easier, because they don't have to get dressed, because they don't have to travel. It's easier. And there's one other thing I want to promote. I'm sorry. Women's League has a program 3 times a week, and it started off being called Psalms. Now it's called Makom Biachad, and they do the Mishaberach and the Kaddish 3 times a week, and so that you can. And there's a psalm, or there's a proverb, or there's something. And you can be exposed to whatever you want. I mean, you have to want to turn it on, but it's there.
Great, thank you. Susan.
We actually, I'm trying to think now, for Rosh Hashanah, for Rosh Hashanah 2020,
Ziggy, cancel.
they had, I'm thinking we had services with 2 or 3 seats in between people, plus a vacant row. So it was every other row. Last year, it was the same thing. And they also had, we have meetings to go, so that's what they used. And last year we had, we did not have the spacing, but people were asked if they could put family members next to each other and maybe space in between for another family group. This year, the board voted that we would not have space in between the rows. And there would be reserved seating, and we're using our social hall that's where people can be spaced out. Some people want to be seated further away. No one in the congregation is having break the fast. And in the past, Sisterhood has had break the fast, but a number of people had break the fast. This year, no one is. And I explained to the current president that we really needed to have food, because little packaged food wasn't going to cut it. Last year we put out, I think they put out packaged food. 'Cause I'm usually there setting up with somebody else. So that's where we stand. And we, during COVID, we have, and I agree with Madeline, we do have people who are watching online services in New York, I mean, there's certain synagogues that they love.
Don't we all? Yeah.
And our Reform congregation here, they have live Facebook services on Friday night. And I think I decided I was going to watch one night for the heck of it. And heard someone say hello to me, and I thought, no. So, because I think the rabbi said hello. I can't remember now because it was 3 years ago. But that's what I have found. Because we've been having Shabbat services, and we used to get 24 to 30 people there on Saturday, and that it's a couple of times we've had to wait till about, I think we took a break before the Torah service, hoping somebody would come in and make a tent so we could do the Torah service. But we are.
They don't count the people online.
No, he will not.
Some people,
He will not do Kaddish online. He wants 10 people present. The boxes don't count. Yeah, he's very strict. What he did, he recorded on Facebook for Friday and Saturday on Thursday or Friday morning and posted it before Shabbat on Friday. And it was, I mean, people could watch it then, but the board unanimously voted not to do Zoom on Shabbat.
Huh, interesting. Well, I think one of the things that I was hoping to bring to the question is that obviously, as this is one more experience, the decision that you are talking about and what we're doing for the high holidays is just one aspect of coming out of COVID, deciding what to do. And that in some degree, the question of how you make these decisions and how our Jewish tradition helps us make those decisions, you just give very good example. Different synagogues, different rabbis had different levels of what they expected to happen. I was very proud of our executive director for Women's League when she started having online Shiva minions, because people really couldn't get to those things, and it was very sad for people to do that. And I think that the ideas, when I talk about are we coming out of COVID, I don't know that we will ever leave this experience completely behind us, because we have ingrained so many things. I love Zoom. I live 30 miles, almost 40 miles away from Knoxville. I'm always late to sisterhood meetings, sometimes a half an hour if the train is bad on the road, but I'm much better this way. Anyway, but I just think that's.
I know. I wanted to add to what Madeline said about the hybrid convention. Unlike the convention in 2020, they will charge a fee for those people attending hybrid. Nothing's been established yet, though.
Right. So, Deborah, do you have something you'd like to add?
Well, very much in the vein of what Madeline said, I think, one of the big positives that I feel did come out was the fact that I'm sitting in my dining room in Forest Hills, Queens, and I'm having a wonderful interaction with all of you, which never would have couldn't have happened. And I know from my mother and my father before he died, in many ways, we celebrated a lot of simchas with many more people. I mean, my father and mother both turned 90, and we had people from all over the world who came together in 2020 to celebrate together on Zoom. And these were, you know, it was a gathering like we never really would have had. And my son got engaged on Zoom, and, you know, they had a 60th birthday Zoom for me. And my son, I said to him, look, if you're going to do it, just everyone's going to be here, just get engaged. And so they did. And I think, you know, we've seen people came to shul who normally wouldn't, you know, and people have been coming to our sisterhood and just events, because it is very easy to just sit in your living room and go on Zoom, and I don't think that's ever going to go away. And I do miss being together, but, you know, I think, you know, for my mother and my father, they were able to participate in things much more, you know, and stay connected because of the pandemic. And, you know, and I don't think we can ignore that part of it. Because it didn't, in some ways, it made the world much smaller because we were all on, you know, in our little boxes.
Mhm. I love it. Hollywood Squares.
The Brady Bunch.
Yes. Dahlia,
There's-
have you anything you'd like to add?
Well, there was a few things that I actually miss about the worst part of the shutdown is when there was pretty much everything had stopped. So much was closed. Certainly not good for the economy long term, but I thought that it was I could hear birds more. I just felt more, there was a cleansing going on. There wasn't any traffic. Maybe I need to go out in the country and live or something. But it just I didn't realize how busy everyone was, and it seems like it's full bore. I'm not yet, but everybody else seems to be. And so I kind of miss the quiet and I miss the animals. I couldn't get over how many animals would just wander through our neighborhood.
That's interesting. You live in North Knoxville, right?
Kind of northwest. Yeah, I live in Carnes. And yeah, there's a lot of wooded space around. There's lots of deer and foxes, and I didn't see them before, but I saw them in shutdown.
Well, that's amazing. Well, I would like to thank you guys all. Unless there's other things, I feel like as we move forward, I mean, and find out what people want to do about COVID, I wanted to use this particular episode as a time to think about COVID as we look towards our high holidays, and the relationship between renewal and coming out was just sort of smacked me in the face. So that's what I wanted to do, while still giving you guys an opportunity to realize that COVID itself had some real particular concerns. And there was both silver linings and downsides on almost everything that was done. So as you guys, I want to wish you a really good holiday. Shonatah. I get killed, my Hebrew gets killed there. But I also want to thank you for taking the time tonight to be here. This is going to be recorded, and Deborah, if there's something you want to change or do in order to use it in a session, or you want the slides, we can send you those things. But you may find that there's some way that you want to move ahead after the holidays to do something different with coming out from COVID. The next session in January, we're going to look specifically at the impact of long COVID. There was a report this week that 500,000 people every week are still out of work because of COVID issues. And there's a long list of very interesting symptoms and things like that I hope to share with you all. And I'm hoping to get responses. I don't think I can get all the speakers to come, so I'm hoping to have video of the different people talking about COVID headaches and brain fog and nutrition problems and digestive problems and so on and so forth. Yes, Susan, I'm sorry. Go.
Now I'm gonna have brain fog. I wanted to thank you for what you're doing for us. I know what I wanted to mention, that we originally scheduled this when Barb was going to be in France. So we changed the date.
Right. So, and I realize that the date puts a lot of hardship on people who are getting ready for the holidays. You know, say, what? Wednesday night before the Wednesday? But anyway.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say is that some of the reason that people are not back at work is because a lot of the companies are still letting them work from home.
Right. Well, I think that
actually,
that's
but I'm not sure. I don't understand why some of the fast food places can't find employees, and they even advertise they're paying X amount per hour, which when I started teaching, I think I figured out my salary was about 30. Well, no, it was under $30 an hour. I mean, they're offering $15 an hour at some of these places.
well, you
So-
get that at McDonald's almost. So anything else? I just want to thank you. I'm going to thank Karen, and we'll put this out. I wish you guys a really good holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing what we can do about long COVID in January. Okay.
Sounds great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Shana Tova.
Nice meeting all
much.
of you.
Good
Shana
night.
Tova.
Shana
Pleasure.
Tova.